Hello, good evening, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Intellectual Forum, the Happiness Club. Today's topic is very interesting, and it is about sustaining a high-performance culture in organizations. I have the pleasure to have with me today Dr. Sanjeev Dixit. He's a 22 years of corporate HR experience. His doctorate in HR management, certified practitioner in HR from Australian Human Resources Institute. He is also a communication psychologist and he's practitioner in Train the Trainer and a global HR leader. And above all, he's the author of the book Plan C. Hello, Dr. Sanjeev, and I have the pleasure to discuss with you very important topic today. How are you?
Absolutely fine, Oda. Thank you so much for inviting me on this intellectual forum. And I'll definitely appreciate your initiative of engaging authors like you, who are a celebrated author yourself, and giving this opportunity to share a lot of the nuggets of the entire experience from the book as well as from professional life with the larger audience.
Yes.
For their benefit. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and I have the pleasure. It's my pleasure. We have multiple questions today to ask Dr. Sanjeev, like the importance of culture, who is the new CEO? We want to ask also about robot versus human and this paradox and conflict and how to solve it. And I want to ask about emotional intelligence, its importance, and how in managing the new artificial intelligence. So I can't wait to start. So I will start with my first question. I want to ask you, what is the thing that compelled you to write Plan C? What was the motivation behind Plan C? Was there a problem that you foresee in the organization in general? And Plan A and Plan B switched?
Sure. As you mentioned in my introduction, that I have got a 23 years of corporate HR experience, and I have worked across various companies in different industries, geographies. So companies like PepsiCo, Philips, Alstom. I worked in Jakarta, Indonesia with Indorama. And currently for last 5 years, I'm heading human resource for the international business of the Indian multinational company in the herbal health and wellness space, Himalaya. And I had a fortune to even set up HR organization for Himalaya as well as in my previous stint as well. So what I've experienced over all these while during my journey in different companies, that the companies which were very focused on the areas of human skills or the right behaviors which will further impact the performance, those companies did very well even in a very uncertain scenario or in a very challenging scenario, while the companies which were only focused on implementing their business plan or their strategy, and they were very action oriented, and I call those companies very plan A type of companies because they A stand for action. So these companies make kind of a business plan and execute. So most of the companies I found to be plan A. Then there were companies
Plan
I
A
experienced.
is action, right? Am I right? Plan A is action.
Absolutely.
So the companies
Actions.
that are oriented toward taking action, making action. Great.
That's right. So those are very action-oriented companies. They have the entire focus in execution and get the results. Then I also saw in my experience while working and also otherwise, there are Plan B companies, which is primarily B stand for backup. So they have a backup plan.
They have a backup plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they are very concerned or conscious about mitigating the risk, managing the risk. So, okay, if plan A doesn't work, do we have plan B? And those companies are very much driven by making very robust risk management plan. And they have also a fair amount of success. But hardly I found company, Hoda, which is very plan C oriented. And when I say plan C oriented means they are very focused on building a very robust high performance culture. Most of the organization, the culture is an outcome of what they're doing. It's not a part of their focus. It is not part of their leadership agenda. It is not part of their primary goal or primary purpose. It is just a byproduct. So that is where this entire thought triggered, that if we able to develop a plan C, then all the plan A and plan B will be very effectively managed and executed. But without plan C, or all your plan A and plan B will have a very limited benefit and limited results. This further also got supported by my PhD thesis. So I did a doctorate in management, as you mentioned also. So I'm a doctorate as well, beside master in business administration. While doing my thesis, the subject of my thesis was the linkage between em- employee engagement, values in terms of role modeling of right behaviors by the leadership, and the impact of these two things on the business performance. And basis the statistical data, primary data, secondary data, I able to analyze and arrive to a statistical conclusion that there is a very strong linkage between the 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 way the leadership role model the behavior associated with the company, and looking at the role modeling of these behavior, employees down below feel very engaged because they see their leader to be walking the talk. They see their leader to be very genuine in their responses and in their vision, and they feel very motivated to contribute successfully in the organization. And because of these two, automatically there is a impact to the top line growth and the bottom line growth. So this is the entire summary of why I chosen culture as the central theme for my first maiden book in the field of a lot of confidence that a lot of responses are coming in now across this data, from management students to startup entrepreneurs, to your government institutions, educational institutions, because and with the today's scenario of pandemic of COVID-19, I think the culture has become a much more relevant area, because in these 3 months, what has now absolutely clear that companies which have been earlier focusing on the right kind of high performance behavior, the companies which were focusing on building trust, the companies which were focusing on creating an ecosystem of working as a team, working as a what do you call it, entrepreneur, those companies have done relatively well in this kind of a lockdown scenario. Vis-a-vis company which was always driven by a very robust business plan, or what I call plan A or plan B, I think they had a tough time. And I think what kind of responses I'm getting today is every company are now started looking back to building a culture which will kind of help the organization to grow, survive, thrive, even there is a pandemic or no pandemic, in a long term.
Long term.
And that is what long term. And that is and in the morning I was having a talk in the remote workforce summit organized by Khalis Times, where I was talking about middle line management, which is basically
Okay, so
nothing but the culture.
let me go into the second question, because you are answering now all the questions. Maybe in light of
Sure,
what you
sure.
said, in light of what you said, and all you said about the importance of culture for the sustainability of growth in organization, and especially in today's uncertainty and turbulent environment everywhere, for the sustainability of organizations. You are implying the plan C. So what I want to
Yes.
know from you now, who is the new CEO then?
Right. So the entire summary of my 23 years experience journey is that culture eats strategy all three meals. And who serve these meals? The CEO.
The CEO.
So
Do you mean by
basically,
that culture of excellence in organizations? That's CEO. That's the new
yeah,
CEO.
that's a new CEO. Absolutely right. But when I say CEO, I'm basically referring to Chief Executive Officer here, the
Yes.
conventional Chief Executive Officer, because if you don't have the message from this particular phrase is, if you have a good strategy and a bad culture, you will not achieve anything. But if you have a not a great strategy but a very great culture, or very high performance culture, you will still achieve a lot of I will say growth and success. So that basically signify the significance and importance of the theme
Culture
culture.
of the culture.
And absolutely, and that is the going to be the new mindset which the CEO needs to acquire in the way they have handled the pandemic today, and the way the uncertain times are going to grow, and also with this entire influx of technology, which you had referred in the beginning of this program, in terms of artificial intelligence, big data, robotics, your chatbots, and so many bots which are now coming in.
Yeah,
Uh,
blockchain and
Blockchain.
yeah.
So, and I think you have also mentioned in your book, in Dare to Happy, the eighth
Yes.
chapter is primarily talking about that. I
Yes.
think with that,
In chapter 8, which is accelerated world, in Dare to Be Happy, I mentioned the part of the future and robots. I mentioned
right,
Asimo, the Japanese robot. I mentioned IBM Watson. And
yes.
I mentioned many futuristic things that will happen or are already happening. I said in 5 to 10 years, but now I see it is only 1 year. We already started it.
No, yeah, and that is going to be the future, or the new normal, which we call today. Like
Yeah,
COVID-19 is a new normal. Similarly,
exactly.
your all these automation and virtual world will be a reality. But these robots or artificial intelligence, or your what you call blockchain, these are only scientific tools. But in order to leverage these tools, the mindset and the orientation which the top leadership, top management, or the leaders of any entity, for that matter, whether it is a nation, whether it is a enterprise, whether it is a startup, or whether it's a government organization, the kind of vision they need to have is that their role now shift from being a chief executive officer to being the anchor of culture of excellence in the organization. And how they will bring the culture of excellence in the organization? By having a high focus on what I just mentioned in the last point, is middle line management. All the while, CEO has been managing top line, which is okay: business growth, business revenue, market share, revenue per employee, uh, or they were only obsessed with the bottom line, which is primarily your profitability, your profit after tax, profit before tax. But they had never talk about, okay, what kind of culture we have, what kind of issues we are facing as far as our cultures are concerned. Are we having right behaviors demonstrated which is impacting our top line and bottom line? Are those right behaviors getting rewarded, recognized? Do we have consequences around all these what you call the values and belief-oriented behaviors. And I think that is the missing link. And then because we miss the middle line and we keep talking about top line and bottom line, the result is neither we achieve top line nor we achieve bottom line, and we also keep then thinking what has happened.
Yes.
So the limited point I'm making, Hoda, is moment the senior management or the leaders of any entity start focusing on building, reinventing, rather evolving the middle line, which is your belief system, which is your values, which is your human skills, which is your high performance behaviors, which is nothing but the consequences which will encourage high performance behaviors on a day to day basis. Your top line and bottom line are secured for many, many years.
Yes.
So this is the new CEO.
Yes, exactly. You believe that the CEO personality and influence can have a huge and great impact on organizational success. And you even mentioned in your book that maybe a CEO can change the overall culture of the organization overnight. And you gave the example of Microsoft. Can you please elaborate more on that?
Sure. So again, the point of reference is experience and seeing the entire growth of the organization from very near proximity, and even talking to all the thought leaders and you can say management gurus across the world. My analysis is, and that is also highlighted in Plan C, is that it is a myth that culture takes many years to basically grow or culminate into some kind of a impactful ecosystem. It is not. Culture is nothing but the personality of the leader. So leader change, basis his personality, culture change. And the case in point, you can take any example, whether you take example of a smaller entity, for example, between two families, yeah, within your family or even my family, close family, basis the father figure, you will see a different culture in two homes. Yes, because the role modeling of the principle, the values which the father figure demonstrate, that becomes the culture of that home. So this is, I'm talking about a very small entity. Now take it to a larger thing, a country. So take any example of a good or a bad country. You can associate the culture of that country with the leader.
The leader,
Because culture is defined, Hoda, in a very simple line. Culture is nothing but the behavior demonstrated by the most influential person in the entire group or the entity.
Yes.
So in a family, the most influential person is father or mother. In an organization, it is CEO and his direct reportees, or CXO is what we call. And in a nation, it is the leader.
Exactly.
So and I think that is what I have quoted in the example. You take example of any organization, and I took Microsoft. The Microsoft during Steve Ballmer time was a different organism. Satya Nadella, new CEO, came in and he brought a different type of way of working in same organization with same products, same employees, same technology, same offices, same infrastructure, everything same, same capital. And the way he changed the culture of the organization, it has become more, I will say, collaborative, more less silo free, or I will say silo free, no silos, resulting into a huge value growth. Today, you see where the Microsoft share prices are. And he has himself written this in his book called Hit Refresh, Satya Nadella. His book, if you read, the name title is Hit Refresh, where he totally kind of a did a control alt delete of the culture which was there previous to his coming, and the change happened immediately. The way he
Overnight.
decided, absolutely overnight. So this myth that culture take many months and years and decades to change, nothing.
This is not
It's
true.
all about leadership. It's all about leadership.
Yes. This leads me to the next question. As we can all see, the work environment is becoming more and more volatile, more complex, more ambiguous, more uncertain. And as you stated, culture is essential to sustainable growth. You also define two kind of success: a success by design, which is crucial and very important for the sustainability of the high performance and the success. And you defined another kind of success, which is a success by default. And I think this only has to do with momentum success, has to do with the quota, achieving target, having a backup plan, having a plan E for actions, and if it fails, we have a plan B for backup. But what is the real sustainable way for success, for high performance? And you relate this to the culture. If you have a good sustainable and high performance culture, you will have success by design for years and years to come.
Absolutely. And I think I can even connect with your book, Dare to be Happy.
Yeah.
If you want a happiness by design or happiness by default,
you are right.
If you have to have a happiness by design, then you need to create a kind of a ecosystem or consistent behaviors which will achieve happiness.
Yeah.
You cannot do once and then you say, I will continue to achieve happiness.
Exactly.
You have to keep doing those things regularly.
Exactly.
Yes.
It will not be consistent or sustainable unless you design for happiness. You are right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Same goes for the success. So if you have to have a success by design, then your mindset has to shift from plan A, plan B to plan C, which means from your top line, bottom line focus to your middle line focus. From always driving the entire emphasis on achieving results to building trust, to building a collaboration, to have a environment where people innovate, to have a kind of a team which always challenge the status quo, to create a organization where high performance is celebrated, to create a company where there is a tolerance for mistakes. You create a kind of a environment where people are very upfront and open to speak the truth and candor. Now, hardly I've seen this is a part of the what you call agenda or the priorities of the leadership. The priorities is okay. What is my monthly what you call sales
target?
Yeah, yeah. What is the achievement of the target? What is the next month target or next quarter target? And after that, what is the next quarter target? And that is where the entire, I will say, the VCS circle keeps moving. Yeah. And after having so much focus on the strategy, business plan, results, KPIs, KRAs, best consultant to support on these implementation of strategy, still you are struggling to achieve growth. Still, after so much of energy, focus, efforts gone from CEO to the last person, still you are struggling. And there are so many examples. And the case in point is the COVID-19 scenario. We are seeing a lot of businesses are struggling. But at the same time, there are businesses which are still able to manage well. Yeah, and I can quote my organization because, again, the same thing that have you got that kind of a clarity of purpose? Have you got that clarity of how in any kind of a ambiguous scenario you will able to deliver the same result which you would have otherwise achieved during a you can say a normal time. So success by design will be achieved when the organization leadership is driven by always improving and evolving the culture of the company or the middle line of the company.
Yes.
Success by default will be achieved by plan A and plan B companies, which will either implement or execute their business plan and try to see whether they will get the result, or they will keep looking at, oh, my risk management plan is or my backup plan is effective to ensure that I don't get any losses. But what is happening in this entire process is that you're missing the very important point, which is the element of you can say the linkage between all the things which you are doing and which remain relevant in the days to come. So culture enable organic growth of the organization and achievement of success in a pandemic or a non-pandemic environment. So it make the organization risk free. I will call it risk free.
More solid and more stable. Time is running. I have lots of questions to ask, and I have here on Instagram some question as well. I will proceed
Most
to
welcome.
the next question. There is a quote I liked about, you said, love creates value, while hollow values cause erosion of value and even closure of business. So you went that far till the closure of business. I want to know from you, what is the value system you are talking about? And what's the importance of these values to the sustainability and the growth and the success of any organization?
Absolutely. I think if we just pick up the newspaper or see the world around, you are seeing a lot of, you can say, issues are happening in terms of the riots, or there are a lot of, you can say, law and order challenges which is happening. Now, why? If you go into the root of all these issues which we are seeing around the world, including this entire scenario of COVID-19, I think the point here is somewhere there is a compromise on the human values. I think there is a kind of I think universally proven point that if you do right things, you will get the right results. As simple as that. Now, values are nothing but the principle which you follow in order to achieve your objectives. That doesn't mean you achieve your objective by any means. You can achieve your objective by any means also, what we call hook or crook, right? What is the objective of an individual? The individual objective is to be successful, to achieve financial independence. Same, the objective of the organization is to keep growing, having profitability, high business revenue, right? And create value for the stakeholders. But then to achieve this, you have always two paths. One is the right path, one is the shortcut. The shortcut is compromising on everything, yeah, to achieve the top line and the bottom line. The long path is focusing on the right thing, which is your values, which is your principle, which is your non-negotiable beliefs, non-negotiable beliefs. And it is proven, Hoda, that nation, organization, family, enterprise, which has always taken the path of following the principle, ethics, integrity, giving consistent and honest experience to their stakeholder, they have survived bad time, good time, pandemic, non-pandemic in a very, very smooth manner. The companies which have, or any entity for that matter, who has negotiated for shortcut gains or short-term gains, they have vanished from the scene.
Yes.
And there are so many examples. I can quote examples like Enron, Lehman Brothers, WorldCom, so many companies which just vanished
Yes,
with a
many
very
companies has vanished. We don't even hear about
big,
them.
because they negotiated
Silence.
on the very core element of their system, what you call principle, which is called integrity.
Integrity.
So they compromised and they vanished. And companies which are still, or nation which is still adhering to the grassroots principle of doing right things, irrespective of hard times or not very hard times, they are sailing through.
Yes.
And I think that is where I always believe the values should not be just written on the walls or the placards or the nice hoardings. It has to be practiced,
Mm.
and this practice of values create culture. So there is a huge linkage between the culture, plan C, vis-a-vis what you call imbibe as a value.
Yeah.
Just for an example, if I say I'm honest, honesty is my value. How you will come to know? You will come to know through my action and not by words,
Yeah.
right? Same goes for an organization. So if they say that their value is customer delight, and they don't do anything in terms of action for the customer delight, they will not
Vanish.
survive.
Yes, this remind me of Steve Jobs saying when he said, "Being the richest man in the cemetery doesn't matter to me." He said, "Going to bed each night saying we have done something wonderful, that's what matters to me."
Absolutely,
I really, it
absolutely.
has to do with what you are saying, and these are the one of the most successful business
Yeah, absolutely,
company in the world. Um,
absolutely. Even Einstein said that not don't be a man of success, but man of values.
exactly.
Because if you are a man of values, you will be a man of success.
This will guarantee sustainability as well.
Always,
Profit
always.
and sustainability of success.
Yes.
I like
Sustainability of happiness also.
exactly,
Sustainability of happiness also. Yes.
exactly by design, not by default.
Absolutely right.
Yeah. Yes. When we are talking nowadays about Wi-Fi is becoming a basic need. It's not a luxury. It's as you said and you mentioned in Plan C. It is like food. It is like water. It is like clothes. Thus, the conventional Maslow theory has turned upside down. If we talk about your best advice to profit out of the advances in technology today, and how can we develop the artificial intelligence to manage, how can we manage the emotional intelligence to manage the artificial intelligence?
I think it's a very beautiful question you've asked. And I think this is one of the most relevant challenge or a problem which every entity or organization is facing. Uh, as we are seeing, as I mentioned in the book also, that Wi-Fi has become even a more basic need than your what you call the food or shelter or clothes. Today, if anybody comes to your home, they don't ask you what you have cooked for the dinner. They will first ask you if you have a Wi-Fi at home,
Wi-Fi, it is true.
and they will ask you the password if you can provide. Because
Exactly.
without that, they are not connected to the world. They are not connected to the entire entertainment or information which they want to have for their consumption. Now, technology I call as a biggest leveler. When I say leveler, means a smallest startup company with 2 people and a large organization with 10,000 employees, or a large nation with million of people, everybody can access to the technology. And technology will not differentiate between whether you are a two people startup company or you are a million employees, what you call conglomerate. They will give you the same service to all the what you call size of organization. The point here is technology has a limited benefit. it cannot go beyond what it is designed for, right? So if you design it for, say, 10 multiple what you call growth, it will give you that kind of a growth. Now, what is the differentiation again between the human and the, you can say, the robots, or what we call the artificial intelligences? They are driven by the the urge to grow. They are driven by the urge or passion to excel. That is not in the robot. That is not in the artificial intelligence. That is not in the blockchain. Ultimately, uh, who's managing whom? While we can have a debate that today the human is the slave of the technology because
Yes,
we
just
are handicapped.
I will interrupt you a little bit because I just received a question now. Exactly,
Sure.
you are answering it. The question is, what is the virtual paradox, and why do human want to replace robots, and why do robots want to replace human? Why don't we work together in harmony and get the best out of technology and use our unique competitive advantage? So I think you are on your way to answer this question as well.
Absolutely, but thanks for kind of interjecting and sharing this question. Now I can blend my answer to also cater to this particular question. So as the what you call technology is created and designed by human mind, the important element is how we can blend both. And when the gentleman is asking about the virtual paradox, the virtual paradox is the danger because of the entire, I will say, um, obsession of the mankind with with to leverage the technology and not driven by their own what you call basic you can say design, which is driven by your passion, driven by your values, driven by the belief system.
I
They are
interrupt you
losing
again.
their.
I interrupt you again because
Sure,
I have two
sure,
more questions related also to what you are saying. They're asking
sure.
what is the relationship between culture and passion? And as you said,
Okay,
culture is simply a shared way of doing something with a passion.
absolutely. So let me finish the first element, and then I will touch upon the passion and the culture. So what I
Okay.
was saying is, because we are so dependent on technology today, uh, the danger line we need to be conscious about is that we should not become robots, and robots should not become humans.
Exactly.
Because, and that is what I call the virtual paradox, that unfortunately, the way we have designed our entire way of working is looking like very, very mechanical. From morning till evening, we behave like robots because we have so much what you call mechanized pattern of doing something, from brushing teeth to going to the bed in the night. While robots are now getting all kind of emotional intelligence because of the program being done with the robots. So now they can even start feeling like you. They can start talking to you in a much more emotional manner. My point here is that these both are irreplaceable what you call resources. Human cannot be replaced by anybody, even if the
It's
bestest of
very
supercomputer.
good news for us.
No, no, absolutely. Oh, so that is given. Only thing is we need to realize that what is the unique differentiation between a robot and a human. Robot doesn't have values. Robot doesn't have a belief system.
Culture.
Robot doesn't have it doesn't, it's not driven by passion. What we ask, somebody's also asked about the culture and the
The
passion.
culture and passion.
It is designed as per the program which has been there in the system of the robots. Okay, so it is a tool. So let's not confuse between human and robot. Robots are tools. Human are the entire creator of this universe. Okay, So human has to take that position, and when and they need to kind of lead this entire what you call Plan C creation by using robots. So in order to do all your operational thing, use robots. Doing all your manual repetitive things, use robots. But when it comes to having a kind of a values driven organization or values driven kind of society, that's where the contribution of human can also only happen. So Plan C cannot be created by a robot. Plan C can only be created by human.
By human being.
Coming to the yes, only coming to the element of passion and the culture. Now, passion is the behavior which ultimately create a environment which becomes culture. So if I have to differentiate between passion and the culture, is passion is a seed which create a tree called culture. Okay, so if I have to define passion, passion is your sense of pride. The urge to excel is called passion. So if I have a urge to excel and it is shown in my action, I will create a culture where passion is always celebrated. I will create a culture where passion is always rewarded. I will create a culture where all the success or achievement of results will be achieved through this urge to excel, which is called passion.
Yes. Okay. Going to the next question, what is the relationship between the HR and the CEO in organizations in applying Plan C and reinforcing values-oriented behavior across all spheres of work? So I believe they should work together because both they have a role to play in applying Plan C at work.
No, absolutely, you are right that the HR and the CEO has a very, very prominent and I will say cutout role for driving the middle line management or the Plan C. But their role are very well defined. So CEO needs to set the tone in terms of defining the larger vision and the purpose of the organization or the entity. The HR act as a coach to CEO. HR is like a mirror. So it shows mirror to the CEO that, okay, these are the things which are good in our organization. These are the things which needs improvement. These are the challenges. These are the opportunities. And HR role is to be very, very candid and very, very open and upfront while sharing all these things to the leadership team and as well as CEO. He should not become a mouthpiece to the senior leadership. That whatever the CEO is saying or whatever the senior management is saying, he only talking about that. He need to have his own mind. He need to have his own conviction, and that is the role value addition which HR brings in on the table.
Yes.
CEO, as I mentioned, is the main leader which head the entire design, creation, and execution of the culture which he wants to or she wants to have in the organization. So CEO is the I will say the brain and the mind, while the HR is the heart in this entire approach.
Okay. We are a bit running out of time, but I want to give the audience as much information as possible. So I have two things, if you want to elaborate more on them. I have I have first the Dr. Dixit hierarchy of high performance culture. And here you started from the transactional culture and you reach a futuristic culture. I have with me to make it
I think we're on the same page.
Okay, you can explain on my page. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hierarchy for culture. You start from the transactional, you reach the futuristic, and there are many ones in between. Can you explain more in the time we have left?
Sure. I think, again, thank you so much, Hoda. I can refer to the book. Okay, no problem. Thank you so much for holding it.
Read it like this. Okay, you can explain it.
Yeah, I can explain it from the book itself. So, primarily, basis again the analysis and the diagnosis through various tools which I have. I have, and I call them Plan C tools. We I able to kind of find different type of culture which is prevalent in any organization. So if today any organization does a culture audit to see where the current culture is, you will have a very surprising you can say findings. Yeah, and that is where I say that every organization evolve from the lowest level of culture to the highest level of culture. But then there has to be a clarity in the mind of the leadership that what is the uh, kind of culture they want to create in order to support the business objectives or the growth objectives they have envisaged for the enterprise. So the lowest level of culture which is prevalent in most of the organization, even if they do diagnosis or not do diagnosis, is very transactional culture. When I say transactional culture, is primarily where you are only doing what you're supposed to do in terms of guidelines, basic policies, basic processes. That's it. So every morning you come, have a task or an activities to perform, you do it and just go. There is no connect, there is no engagement, there is no emotional bonding with your job, your team, your organization, your larger purpose of the company. So that is very, very basic level of culture called transactional culture.
Okay.
In some organization, I also call it blame culture. That I am not, we are not done that job because of you, and you have not done your job because of the other person. So we keep blaming and shifting the blame. So that's a very basic
we have
level of
5 minutes left. We have five
Sure,
minutes
sure.
left, and I have
So I,
two more questions. If we can
so I'll in 1 minute I will finish it. So next level is engaging culture. So anything better than what you're doing today in terms of talking to each other, there is a common bonding between the teams, that is engaging culture. Next is your innovative culture, where you are trying to challenge the status quo. You're trying to come out with very incremental improvement ideas. You are encouraged to give ideas. That's called innovative culture. And anybody can associate if that is happening in the organization, then where they are falling. Then comes the agile culture. Agile culture is where you are always ahead of time. You're always thinking, okay, if I'm currently here, how I can improve upon going forward. Okay, so very agile all the time. You're alive. The second last is disruptive culture. Now, in the disruptive culture, you take a very different path, not the conventional path. You take a very different path. So you disrupt the entire way of working. So somebody is saying I have to reach X. You will say no, I will go 5X. So you disrupt. Like Apple, for example, they have come out with products which people have not even imagined. Neither Nokia nor Samsung. So that's called disruptive. And finally is futuristic culture. A futuristic culture is a culture which is where everything is happening very organically, in the sense that they are already 5 years ahead.
Okay.
So in 2020, they are already at 2025. They have reached to that kind of a mental stage.
Ahead of time. Yes, that was
very much ahead of time.
Hierarchy of high performance culture. Now I will talk. We will talk quickly about the stages, the 5 stages of Plan C, and these are here. They are. So if you can say 1 minute description of them, that would be great.
Sure. So this is a kind of a last model which I have kind of proposed. While it's a very, very detailed, each and every steps is very detailed. So if we do these 5 steps, we will by design achieve the plan C, or the kind of culture we want to create in the organization. Starting with the culture vision. So when I say culture vision, what kind of culture you want to have in your organization? So what how you visualize the culture to be, whether you want to be futuristic culture, or you want to have a blame culture, or you want to have a innovative culture. So in the hierarchy, where you want to be, so that
Where
is your
you are.
vision,
Yes.
where you want to be.
Yes.
Then comes the culture design, the next step. If you go clockwise, culture design is in line with the vision. What are the things you want to do in order to achieve that vision? So you break down all your what you call vision statement into specific activities and initiatives and interventions.
Yeah.
Then comes a culture action. Now, once you have designed what you want to do in say 1 year or 2 years time, then you break down into a project plan, which is okay. We will be focusing on these behaviors. We will rewarding these behaviors. We will create consequences, and then come culture reviews. Then you will always do a culture review, like you're doing a business review. You will see,
Constantly.
okay, constantly, so monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, in terms of what are the KPIs around my culture, and are those KPIs are getting improved or not. So in
Yes.
terms of culture audit score, culture survey scores, culture, you can say indicators, all those you can easily monitor on a
Yes.
regular basis.
Yes.
And finally, culture improvements. So culture improvements is basis the entire reviews. If you find any gaps still against your vision and what you are currently,
Yes.
you do those improvement activities in that culture improvement stage.
So we are after Plan C. We need more agile and more versatile, more innovative culture and more futuristic culture. Actually, we are after Plan C. And the final question I would like to ask you: what is your personal, your sound formula for happiness at workplace? Maybe it's a summary of all what you said. It's a summary of culture, of passion, and of Plan C.
So if I have to summarize, Hoda, about my happiness vision, and how I achieve happiness for self and for my team and for the organization, what I work or where I work, is just one line thing, which is leaving a better legacy.
Mm.
So if when I came to any organization, or when I came to Earth, I I was I was in a particular situation. Now, one choice is to keep cribbing about it. The other choice is, okay, how I can improve whatever I have got, and when I leave a better legacy for people to use. So every day, that is my entire endeavor, that I should derive happiness out of doing something which leave a better legacy.
Yes, it's more also more or less close to what Steve Jobs have said. Yes.
Okay.
I also have the very interesting speaker and topic. Thank you, Hoda. Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev, to give us
Thank
this
you so much.
opportunity. So I will just say thank you very much for this wonderful episode, very informative. And we talk about the organizational, the CO, the organization, how to sustain success in organization and to maintain a high performance culture in organizations. Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjeev. It was really a pleasure connecting with you today. And if you would like to say anything at the end, so we wrap up the session or the episode.
No, I think once again I would like to appreciate you for this excellent initiative in the form of intellectual forum under Happiness Club, which goes very well with your very successful book, Dare to Be Happy.
Thank you
And
very much.
I wish you all the success, all the best in future in life, and continue to spread happiness through this initiative, through your own you can say value system, your own you can say belief system, which and which creates a culture at your home and culture around you. which is basically emphasizing happiness. And you should be known from the kind of legacy you leave is, which is again lots of happiness for people around you. So thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
And pleasure here as well. Thank you so
All
much
the
for
best.
inviting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Stop that.